Ontario resident Bethany charged $1,400 for having a baby. Well, it's not cheap. You go to the hospital and they take care of you, but surely we have a system where you don't pay. But she was a surrogate mum, and this is an intriguing issue because I understand exactly why they would charge you. There's a case where a Spanish couple, they had a surrogate to have twins for them, and they ran off owing about $50,000. Chris Sims is the expert here, not because she's a surrogate, but she's a recent mum, and joins us from Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. Chris, I don't believe in surrogacy. I don't know where you stand on this, but I realise people sometimes can't have children. It's very sad, but adoption is a wonderful alternative. But I can understand why the hospital authorities say you have to pay money because the people who will have the baby do not live in Ontario.
As far as where I stand, I mean, I find it just a deeply personal and bizarre issue. And so it's one of those rare moments where I can see both sides of the fence on this, really. Yeah. The desire to be a parent is so intrinsic, to want to have your own children is so fundamental. And yet the questions are these your own children? They're your DNA, but you're getting somebody else to gestate, to deliver, to give birth to your child. And now this specific case that you're raising in Ontario, boy, oh boy, it raises issues of legality. Surrogacy, paid surrogacy in Canada is illegal. You're only able to be reimbursed for expenses caused by your surrogacy. Number two, it's nationality. This child born instantaneously becomes a Canadian citizen. Yep. To Spanish parents who aren't here. And so there's the social health care aspect of it. And then, of course, there's the whole moral question. You look at the picture of this surrogate mother holding this brand new newborn person who is going to be taken from the mother that just gave birth to him. And now they're going to wait 3 months. Did you read that part, Michael? They're going to now wait 3 months. So that way he's technically a resident of Ontario and qualifies for OHIP, so they won't need to fully cover it. It's a really complex topic. Paging Dr. Huxley.
Well, you have to wonder about these people because I do understand that many people who use a surrogate, they're desperate to have children. I'll get to that in a few moments' time. But in this case, waiting 3 months when they should be desperate to have this baby, the baby will come attached to the mum. We live in a very confused society when we fund abortions so there are fewer babies around. There are still all sorts of people waiting to be adopted. But then we have things like, and this is great, we have a Toronto fertility lawyer, a lawyer who deals in fertility issues, of all the things to deal with. But I do have moral objections to this. I don't think it's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, there's a certain natural law. And you mentioned Huxley, Brave New World. Yes, this is a world created for people's own desires, not for the greater good of humanity.
And even when I was growing up, Michael, the very what now seems humdrum sort of adoption that went on was dealt with so much differently. Yeah. If a couple wanted a baby, they would adopt a baby from usually a mom that was a single mom and scared and, brought her child into the world, but then gave it to a couple all on the up and up. And even that wasn't really talked about very much. If you can believe it, we all remember times when the adoptive parents wouldn't even tell the child. Now that's just completely unheard of. When we've gone so far, I guess you could call it the other way, where we've just recently talked about a person who donated sperm now having some sort of parental access rights or even child support duties to have to be paid. And I'm not surprised there's a fertility lawyer. This whole area is so murky. There are people who work in the industry, if you can call it an industry of eggs and sperm and children, who don't know where the rules are, because when they passed the law back in 2004, they thought that it would put an end to it. It was a federal law that was passed that dealt with these sort of things, and it would outlaw, hideous things like a chimera or involving other non-human species. But then in 2010, there was a court ruling that said, no, this is up to the province. And so now it's gotten really gray. And now we've got a situation like this. Does an Ontario resident woman who has another couple's biological child herself, delivers it herself in a hospital, does she have to pay back an OHIP cost for a semi-foreign resident that she just gave birth to? It's an utterly complicated case.
It is. Well, science tells us what we can do. It doesn't tell us what we may do, and certainly doesn't tell us what we should do. And it is morally neutral and amoral in many ways. And I fear this is just the beginning. This will become more culturally acceptable, even fashionable, more fertility lawyers. And, of course, we'll all be a better people because of it. As always, Chris, a great pleasure. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
You too, Michael.